Deep within the damp confines of an abandoned warehouse, Mr. Dugan. Dugan methodically brushed blood onto a stark white cloth, a sinister task interrupted by a sudden, thunderous banging at the door. The forceful knocks echoed like a command, resonating with an unmistakable anger that demanded attention.
Startled, Dugan hurried up the creaking stairs toward the weathered front door. With a mixture of haste and caution, he pushed it open.
He found himself face to face with a disheveled man, bearing the scars of a brutal confrontation. His face was crisscrossed with stitches, his arms and legs encased in casts. The man had clearly endured a savage attack. Dugan recognized him as one of his victims from earlier that week.
Remember me?
You're alive. I thought I killed you.
You tried, but your blade didn't cut deep enough. I managed to get medical help after you abandoned me on the roadside, dragging my blood with you.
That's impossible. I never miss my targets. I always kill my victims.
Well, you missed this time. But enough talking. I'm placing you under citizen's arrest. The police will finally have you.
With that, the man produced a pair of handcuffs and lunged at Dugan.
I wouldn't do that if I were you.
Dugan warned, reaching into his back pocket to withdraw a long, black machete. He charged at the man, ready for conflict.
If you want a knife fight, you've got one.
The man brandished his own knife, poised for a fight. The two knives clashed violently, creating a cacophony of steel that filled the space. But soon, the man managed to slice at Dugan's ankle, severing the shoelaces of his right shoe. Dugan stumbled and fell to the ground, a sharp pain erupting as he twisted his ankle.
Damn it! You'll pay for this. I'm not turning you into a victim. I'll drain you dry and turn you into a red sweater.
Just give up. You're wounded and you're under citizen's arrest. Let's end this.
Fine, I surrender.
Dugan muttered begrudgingly, slowly pushing himself off the ground.
But if you're serious about turning me in, you're going to need evidence. Let me grab what I have from the basement.
I'll wait right here.
The man replied, a cautious determination in his voice.
Perfect.
Dugan responded, an insidious grin creeping across his face as he walked toward the basement. He descended into the shadows, the man watching as Dugan's silhouette melted into the darkness of the abandoned building. Once in the basement, Dugan dashed down the stairs, flinging open a metal hatch hidden in the floor.
I have to get out of here. No one puts me behind bars.
He whispered to himself, panic simmering beneath his calm exterior. Before the man could realize his disappearance, Dugan lowered himself into the hole, closing the hatch behind him and stepping into the suffocating darkness of the passageway, plotting his next move in the shadows. I'll have a meatball marinara.
Me too. A meatball marinara for me as well.
I'll take a turkey sandwich.
Colton, Zach, Chris, and Mr. Rence stood at the counter ready to place their orders. And I want a dozen cookies.
Zach, you need something more substantial than just cookies.
Nope. Cookies are my priority. If I can't have cookies, I might just eat you instead.
All right then, I guess you're getting cookies, and I'm paying for all of this again.
Just as I thought. Zach strutted over to a booth, settling down with a victorious grin. Mr. Rence handed the cashier a wad of bills before joining the others at their table. Just as he sat down, his phone buzzed insistently.
What now?
How should we know? Maybe he needs more grass.
Not everything revolves around grass, Chris. Every day it's grass this and grass that. Can't you just get a life?
Grass is my life.
Whatever, I'm taking this call. Hello?
Meet me at the corner of Mountain Dew and Ginger Ale Street.
What?
I'm stuck in the worst dinner of my life with our 3 idiot friends.
If you don't come pick me up, I won't be one of your friends anymore. I'll either be dead or in prison, and I won't be able to hang out with you. Wait, how could you get caught? You're Mr. Dugan, the most feared serial killer alive. Even Jeffrey Dahmer hides under his bed from you.
Yeah, but Dahmer's dead.
That's just how terrifying you are. So, again, how did you get caught?
One of my victims survived. She didn't die.
Oh, crap. We'll be right there.
He stood up abruptly and grabbed his keys. What's happening? Aren't we getting sandwiches?
We need to rescue Mr. Dugan. Tell Zach and Chris to get in the van. No time to lose.
But my cookies?
Forget your cookies.
Without another word, Mr. Rence sprinted out of the restaurant, followed closely by the others. They all piled into the familiar blue supersonic van.
This better be serious. I was really looking forward to that sandwich.
Mr. Rence drove furiously through the city, finally pulling up to the designated corner. He squinted into the darkness, spotting Mr. Dugan's frantic silhouette approaching the van.
Get in.
The back door swung open, and in a blur, Mr. Dugan ducked into the van, buckling his seatbelt and slamming the door in mere seconds.
Wow, looks like you really are in trouble.
One of my victims lost a lot of blood but still made it. She's definitely going to turn me in. We need to take care of her, but not with a knife. He's too powerful.
So how do we handle this? You're asking for our help, right?
Yes, I need your help, but I'm unsure of the approach.
What about using a large amount of acid to poison her?
Like illegal drugs, how would I even get her to take it?
No, I mean pure toxic acid.
I can only get that on the dark web. I don't want some Nigerian scammer getting my info.
But there's another option. The atmosphere of Venus has high acid content. We could harvest it.
And how exactly do you propose we get there? We are not astronauts, and rockets are way too expensive.
Simple. We ask Mr. Callaway. He's an alien member and has a spaceship.
Will he even help?
Only one way to find out. Let's swing by his house.
At this hour, it's like 9 p.m.
Perfect. He's probably down in his basement jamming on his drums. We can sneak him out.
With determination, Mr. Rence shifted the van into gear and sped off towards Mr. Callaway's house. Mr. Callaway was lost in the rhythm of his drums, jamming out to Led Zeppelin's Black Dog, when suddenly, a familiar blue van barreled into his basement, crashing through the wall behind him. The wall crumbled and collapsed onto Mr. Callaway.
I think you killed him. How do we get to Venus now?
I'm okay.
How is that even possible?
You just got crushed by a wall and now you're lifting it like it's nothing.
Because I'm God and I said so.
Mr. Callaway replied with a confident grin. He stood up and, astonishingly, returned the wall to its original place, as if it had never fallen. Ignoring the chaos, Mr. Callaway turned to the van.
What brings you guys by? Want something to drink? I've got Coke and Sprite.
I'll take a Sprite.
This is not the time for soft drinks. We need to get to Venus.
But I never got my cookies earlier.
Wait, why do you guys need to go to Venus? One of Mr. Dugan's victims survived.
Wait, what?
Mr. Dugan kills people with 100% accuracy. He could even kill me if he tried, and I'm God.
Can everyone stop harping on the fact that I failed? I'm embarrassed. He didn't die. End of story. Shut up, all of you. Sorry, it's just really fun to make fun of you. Don't think I won't stab you, Mr. Rence.
Okay, everyone calm down. I understand this person needs to die, but where does Venus come into play?
The atmosphere of Venus has a heavy concentration of acid that could be used to poison him. If we can take your spaceship there, preferably you, Mr. Callaway, since you're immortal, could descend into the atmosphere, collect a large quantity of acid, and bring it back to Earth. Then we could poison the victim.
That makes sense now.
Meet me in the driveway. I'll take you guys to Venus.
The group quickly piled out of the van and made their way to Mr. Callaway's driveway. They watched as a spaceship hovered in the sky, a ladder shooting down to the ground.
Climb up. We have to do this before my wife wakes up.
The boys grabbed onto the ladder, climbing into the darkness of the night. Colton settled into the passenger seat of the spaceship, while Zach, Chris, Mr. Dugan, and Mr. Rence took their places in the back. Mr. Callaway pressed a button on the dashboard, and the ladder folded back into the ship.
Who's ready for an astronomical adventure full of acid? All we are. Then let's take off.
Mr. Callaway replied cheerfully, starting the countdown.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Blast off. I farted.
The spaceship roared to life, soaring off the roof and into the night sky. It climbed higher and higher, breaking through Earth's atmosphere and venturing into the vastness of space. The spaceship glided through the solar system, finally decelerating to a halt in Venus's orbit.
Boys, we're about to land. Let's review the plan.
All right, here's my idea. We'll land on Venus and hover in the upper atmosphere. Then, Mr. Callaway will use his parachute to drop to the mid-atmosphere, where the acid concentration is highest. He'll collect some samples and then jetpack back up to the ship.
Sounds like a plan.
Mr. Callaway opened the window to gaze out at the stars.
It's an incredible view. I've never seen space like this before.
Absolutely beautiful.
It really is breathtaking.
Mr. Callaway rolled up the window and maneuvered the ship forward. Suddenly, the vessel slammed into the surface of Venus with a thunderous impact. The ship began its dive deep into the planet's atmosphere. He positioned the craft near a cloud of acidic vapors and readied his parachute.
I'll be right back, boys.
Mr. Callaway declared, opening the ship's window and climbing out. He secured the parachute on himself and cast off into the yellow haze below. The crew watched anxiously as he descended. Suddenly, Mr. Callaway's voice echoed back up, filled with panic.
No! Guys! Guys, my parachute ripped! I'm plummeting to the surface! I'm going to be crushed and burned alive!
But you're God.
That doesn't change the fact that it's going to hurt. I'm sorry this plan failed.
Not all hope is lost. I'll save him.
Chris, no, that's way too dangerous. You don't have a parachute, you'll just end up dead.
I can turn my grass into a parachute.
When did you have time to bring grass on the ship?
Don't question me.
The group watched as Chris skillfully folded and shaped the grass until it morphed into a parachute-like structure.
I'll be back with Mr. Callaway.
Chris confidently announced, climbing onto the grass and launching himself out the window.
He's gonna die.
I can't watch.
We have to watch, or we'll be bad friends if something happens to him.
The crew turned to the window, eyes fixed on the yellow haze of Venus as Chris plunged deeper into the atmosphere.
I'm coming, Mr. Callaway.
Chris, is that you? Get back in the ship. It's too dangerous. Leave me to my fate.
No way. This is what friends are for. We aren't leaving you.
Chris, this atmosphere is filled with toxic acid. One drop on your skin and you'll melt away. You'd end up dead, forever.
I have to bring back those acid samples. If not, Mr. Dugan goes to prison. I have to sacrifice myself.
Chris continued his descent, soon leveling next to Mr. Callaway.
Well, genius, now that you're here, how do we get back up? My jetpack's wrecked.
I'll make a balloon out of grass. We will make it.
That's impossible. Even I can't do that, and I'm God.
Don't underestimate the power of my grass.
Chris fervently worked with the green strands.
Grab my hand, and I'll pull you up.
Are you sure? We're floating on a giant death trap.
It's fine. You can do this. Just reach out.
Nervously, Mr. Callaway thrust his arm forward, surprisingly managing to grasp Chris.
You did it. We're really going to make it.
I told you, but you guys always doubt my abilities.
I'm sorry. Now can you float us back to the ship?
Chris pulled on a blade of grass, and the balloon began to rise higher and higher.
They're actually going to make it. Chris managed to rescue him.
No way.
But he had no choice but to believe it when Chris and Mr. Callaway floated up to the ship's window and lowered themselves inside.
Did you get any acid samples?
Yes, sir. I managed to gather some while arguing with Chris.
Wait, you did?
Oh yes, I knew you could save me with your grass.
You played mind games with me. What a jerk.
Hey, it worked, didn't it?
Touche.
Leaping into the pilot's seat, Mr. Callaway ignited the engine.
Let's get off this wretched planet.
He exclaimed, propelling the ship back into the solar system. After navigating the vastness, Mr. Callaway landed the ship back on Earth, parking it atop his house as if they had never left.
All right, where's the victim?
The last time I saw him, he was at the abandoned warehouse. I told him I'd be right back, but I'm sure he knows I've escaped by now. Are you sure you want to go back? I have backup now, right? You all can come with me.
Do we have to?
If we don't, he might come after us too.
Correct.
Mr. Dugan affirmed, giving Mr. Callaway a high five.
Let's head back to that warehouse.
Meanwhile, at the abandoned warehouse, the Scarface man sat in the dusty, damp dining area, waiting as the blue van careened into the building.
Mr. Dugan, I knew you'd come back.
He sneered.
I waited here for 16 hours. You can't escape my wrath this time.
You're about to be put to rest.
With that, the doors of the van swung open, and Colton, Zach, Chris, Mr. Rence, and Mr. Callaway stepped out, surrounding the man.
What's going on? You can't have allies. They're not allowed.
These aren't my accomplices. They're my friends, the most loyal you could ask for. They wouldn't let me rot in jail. They even got something from Venus for me.
Wait, from Venus?
The Scarface man inquired, a flicker of fear in his eyes.
That's right.
Mr. Dugan said, revealing a jar of acid. He hurled it at the Scarface man. As the acid splashed against his skin, the man screamed in agony as his flesh began to melt away.
You will pay for this, Mr. Dugan.
He screamed, his voice fading into silence.
That takes care of that. Now let's get this body to the ocean.
The group banded together, lifting the lifeless form as they exited the abandoned warehouse.